Technology is the future, Gavin declared, raising his champagne flute at my farewell lunch. His polished smile never reached his eyes as he continued. With our new automated systems and AI integration, Northrise Apparel will be positioned to dominate the market for decades to come. He turned to me with that practiced sincerity they teach in executive coaching seminars. Let's give Vita a round of applause for getting us here. The conference room erupted in obligatory clapping. I nodded, smiled, and thanked them, clutching my small black notebook, the only personal item I'd brought from my office after packing 25 years of memories into 3 cardboard boxes the day before. My name is Vita Lewis. For a quarter-century, I've been the backbone of Northrise Apparel's data infrastructure in Sacramento. When I started, I was plugging in physical servers and writing code that formed the foundation of what would become a billion-dollar company. They didn't call me a data architect back then. I was just the computer lady who somehow made everything work. Vita has been with us since the beginning, Gavin continued, his voice carrying the enthusiastic cadence of someone who had joined the company a mere 14 months ago. She's seen us grow from a small regional distributor into the industry leader we are today. We wish her all the best in her retirement. Retirement. The word stung. I was only 59, and I hadn't chosen to leave. The decision had been presented to me as a fait accompli 3 weeks ago. The Nexus system will streamline our operations, Gavin had said, referring to the new $17 million AI management system they had purchased. Your position is, unfortunately, redundant under the new infrastructure. All around me, now former colleagues averted their eyes, knowing what this farewell lunch really was, the ceremonial removal of an obsolete part. After decades of building their empire's nervous system, inventory tracking, customer database, shipment logistics, I was being discarded because I didn't fit the sleek new aesthetic of Silicon Valley-style modernization. I felt the weight of my notebook in my hand. Inside were 25 years of institutional knowledge, manual override codes, system quirks, backdoor fixes. Info not stored in the cloud or on any server, just in my head and these pages. To Vita, Gavin concluded, and to the future of Northrise Apparel. I raised my glass in response, hiding my thoughts behind a practiced smile. Little did they know, their future was about to get very complicated. Data collection. When we acquired smaller companies, I integrated their systems with ours, preserving what worked while upgrading what didn't. Everything changed when Thomas retired 3 years ago. The board brought in Gavin Pard, 38 years old, with an MBA from Wharton and a resume full of tech startups, but no experience in apparel manufacturing or distribution. His first all-hands meeting set the tone. We need to disrupt ourselves before someone else disrupts us. Over the next year, consultants came and went, dropping buzzwords like digital transformation and AI-first paradigm. They interviewed me extensively, taking notes on how our systems worked, what databases contained which info, how our proprietary software managed inventory across 5 distribution centers. I should have seen it coming. But loyalty had made me naive. The doorbell rang, jolting me from my thoughts. Through the peephole, Elena from HR, holding a gift basket. Just wanted to check on you, she said when I opened the door. The transition team realized we never got your authentication codes for the backup systems. The transition team was just 3 20-somethings trying to deconstruct my life's work. Everything's in the handover documents, I replied coolly. The master list should have all the access protocols. Her smile faltered. There seems to be some confusion about the legacy systems, particularly the warehouse automation interfaces. Of course there was. Those interfaces were custom-built, modified over years. Nothing about them was standard. I'm sure they'll figure it out, I said, accepting the basket but not inviting her in. The Nexus system is the future, after all. The first signs of trouble came a week after I left. My old colleague Jerome texted me, "Systems glitching. New team can't figure out why inventory won't reconcile with shipping manifests. I didn't respond. Next day, Bethany from accounting called. Vita, we're having issues with the quarterly reporting module. Numbers aren't matching sales. I'm sure the transition team can handle it, I said. The Nexus system is supposed to be state-of-the-art. But it's still pulling from your architecture, she said. Nobody understands the connections like you do. I felt a twinge of sympathy. Bethany had always been kind, but I stood firm. I've moved on, Bethany. My consulting schedule is full. That wasn't a lie. The day after my severance cleared, Philip Donovan, co-founder of Donovan and Mills Logistics, Northrise's biggest competitor, called me. Just a consultation, he said. We've admired your work for years. Their office was on the 12th floor of a glass tower with a view of the state capitol. Sleek, modern, unlike Northrise's aging industrial campus. Philip met me in the lobby himself, a courtesy Gavin had never extended to anyone below VP level. Miss Lewis, he said, shaking my hand, we're excited to hear your thoughts on our data infrastructure. I met their tech team, reviewed their systems, and quickly diagnosed a problem they'd struggled with. Multi-location inventory synchronization. I solved this at Northrise 15 years ago, I told them. At the end of the 3-hour meeting, Philip walked me to the elevator. We'd like to bring you on as a consultant. 3 days a week, your own team, complete autonomy. The offer? Double my Northrise salary. I'll need to think about it, I said, though in truth my mind was already made up. When I got home, I had 3 missed calls. Elainer, IT, and Gavin. I ignored them all. That night, I opened my black notebook and began transcribing it into a password-protected document on my laptop. Emergency workarounds, server peculiarities, all the quirks of a system built over decades. The next morning, I called Philip and accepted his offer. That afternoon, Jerome texted again. Complete system failure. Nothing's talking to anything. CEO is losing his mind. I closed my phone without replying and began packing for my first day at Donovan and Mills. At Donovan and Mills, I had a corner office overlooking the American River and a team of developers who actually listened when I talked about database architecture. We were making fast progress on rebuilding their inventory system, and I felt more valued in 3 weeks than I had in the last 3 years at Northrise. My phone buzzed. Jerome again. They're calling it the Black Thursday crash. Nothing's working. Orders lost, inventory frozen, customer portal down. Gavin's looking for someone to blame. I didn't respond, but I did open up the Sacramento Business Journal online. Headline: Northrise Apparel faces major system outage, stock drops 8% on fulfillment concerns. The article described how the AI system had failed spectacularly. Customers couldn't place orders, warehouses couldn't ship existing ones, and the company issued a vague statement about technical difficulties. But internal sources, probably Jerome, confirmed a total system collapse. Then my office phone rang. Caller ID, Philip Donovan. I assume you've seen the news, he said, just reading it now. Any insights? I considered it. Their system was implemented without adequate testing or understanding of the legacy architecture. It was inevitable. Philip paused. We got a call from Thomas Green. Apparently he's still on Northrise's board. He suspects we recently acquired some valuable expertise. My heart skipped. Thomas had always been my biggest supporter, but I never expected this. What did you tell him? That we're very happy with our current personnel and have no interest in loaning out our valuable consultants. I smiled. Thank you. Philip added, out of curiosity, how bad is it? I hesitated, then answered, if they tried integrating Nexus without properly migrating the manufacturing execution system I built, they've probably corrupted their entire database. Every order, inventory log, and shipping record from the last 3 months, damaged. Recovery is possible, but not with their team. Just then my assistant knocked. Urgent expression. Miss Lewis, Gavin Pard has called 3 times in the last hour. Philip smirked. Aren't you going to take that? I don't work for Northrise anymore, I replied simply. He nodded. No, you certainly don't. Before he left, he added, we have that strategy meeting at 3. I'd love your thoughts on expanding our DTC channels. After he left, I sat for a moment, staring at the blinking light on my phone, then went back to work. By that evening, my inbox was full of desperate emails from Northrise execs. The most telling was from Elainer. The transition team admits they don't know how to restore the backups. Gavin is considering external consultants, $30,000 a day. Please call me. I shut my laptop and went home, slept better than I had in years. The next morning, another 6% drop in Northrise stock. Analysts estimated $50 million in potential losses and long-term customer damage that couldn't even be measured. At work, I found a fruit basket on my desk and a note from Philip. Thank you for your loyalty. Your insights helped us secure the Wilson account, $4.2 million annually. The Wilson Group, one of Northrise's oldest clients. I allowed myself a small moment of satisfaction. Around noon, my desk phone rang again. Miss Lewis, there's a Gavin Pard in the lobby. No appointment. Says he'll wait. I sighed. Tell him I'm in meetings all day. After checking with Philip, who found the whole situation amusing, I agreed to a 15-minute meeting, neutral territory, a first-floor conference room. Gavin looked awful, disheveled, with dark circles and a coffee-stained shirt. Vita, he said, reaching to shake my hand. I nodded, but didn't take it. Gavin extended his hand, but I didn't reciprocate. Thank you for seeing me. What can I do for you, Gavin? I asked, keeping my tone professional, though I felt a flicker of satisfaction seeing him in such a mess. We need your help. The Nexus integration has encountered complications. Catastrophic failure is what the press was calling it. The coverage has been unfortunate, he said, wincing. But we believe, with your expertise, we can resolve the issues quickly. The board has authorized me to offer you a 6-month consulting contract, with very generous terms. I replied, I have a position here. We'll double whatever they're paying you, he blurted. Then, seeing my expression, triple it. I leaned back and studied him. You fired me, Gavin. You said my expertise was obsolete. Remember, technology is the future. You said I was holding the company back. He looked embarrassed. That was a mistake. Some mistakes cost more than others, I replied. You're losing millions daily. Warehouses can't ship. Customer service can't access order histories. Nexus says the database is corrupted beyond recognition. I thought about all the warnings I'd given, all the documentation they'd ignored. The training sessions no one attended. No, I said simply. What? No. I don't work for Northrise anymore. I have commitments here. I'm sure your Nexus experts will figure it out, eventually. Gavin's desperation turned to anger. You know exactly what went wrong. You probably built in these failures. I stood up, my own anger rising. I dedicated 25 years to building systems that worked flawlessly. If they're failing now, it's because you dismantled them without understanding how they worked. We'll sue for sabotage. For what? Taking another job after being fired? Not answering phone calls from a company that discarded me? Good luck with that. I gathered my papers. I believe our 15 minutes are up. As I walked out, I turned back. By the way, there's a full recovery protocol. Emergency Procedures Manual, Volume 3, Section 8. Updated quarterly for 20 years. But of course, that would require reading the documentation. I left him there, mouth slightly open, and returned to my new office, where I was building something better. 2 days later, I got a formal letter from Northrise's legal department requesting all documentation and notes from my old job. Then, a personal note from Thomas Green. Vita, call me. We need to talk. The board is in chaos. Out of respect, I did. This is a mess, Thomas said. Gavin has convinced the board you sabotaged the system. That's absurd, I replied. The systems were stable when I left. I know, but they need someone to blame. The main backup was corrupted during the migration. There's a tertiary backup on a secure server in Building C. It runs independently and archives weekly. Long pause. Building C was decommissioned last month. Cost cutting. I closed my eyes, picturing the old server room, quiet, reliable, now empty. Vita, Thomas continued, I know how they treated you was wrong, but there are 7,000 employees who depend on Northrise. Not all of them made Gavin's decisions. It hit me. My fight wasn't with the workers or the support staff, it was with corporate arrogance. I can't come back, Thomas. I have commitments. What if you consulted remotely? Just enough to get the systems back online. No contact with Gavin. You'd be well compensated. I thought about it. That evening, I brought it up with Philip. His response surprised me. Help them, under the right conditions. You want me to help our biggest competitor? I want you to negotiate terms that benefit us both. If you fix their system while securing terms for Donovan and Mills, that's a win-win. The next day, I called Thomas. Here are my conditions. Remote-only consultation? Work exclusively through technical staff? Substantial consulting fee, paid up front. I told Thomas that Northrise would also need to sign a partnership agreement with Donovan and Mills, giving us preferred status for West Coast distribution. That's essentially asking us to collaborate with our competitor, Thomas said. It's asking you to acknowledge reality, I replied. Your distribution is a mess. You need help. We can handle the overflow at fair rates, and I can help restore your systems. Everyone wins. Thomas took the proposal to the board. After 8 hours in emergency session, they agreed. Gavin was furious, but overruled. The next week was intense. I worked remotely, guiding Northrise's tech team through data recovery and system rebuilds. I didn't give them everything, just enough to restore functionality and prevent further losses. Meanwhile, Philip was thrilled with the new partnership. It opened doors to clients we'd chased for years. Northrise's stock stabilized. Crisis coverage faded. I stayed clear of Gavin, only communicating with Thomas and the tech team, but heard through Jerome that Gavin's position was hanging by a thread. It wasn't revenge, it was vindication. 6 weeks later, the VA protocols, named after me, had stabilized Northrise. I received an email from Thomas Green. Subject: board meeting results. Gavin Pard was removed as CEO. The board voted 10-2 for his immediate replacement. The Nexus failure cost us $142 million in lost orders, client trust, and emergency consultant fees, Thomas wrote. His position became untenable. I sat back, letting that sink in. I hadn't taken him down, but I wasn't sorry. Later, Philip dropped by my office. I hear Northrise is shopping for a new CEO, he said with a smirk. So I've heard. They could do worse than bringing Thomas back. I nodded. He understands the business in a way Gavin never did. Philip added, by the way, the Wilson Group was so impressed with our handling of their overflow, they want to make it permanent. That's a $12 million annual contract, taken directly from Northrise. I raised an eyebrow. Business is business, he said. Speaking of business, he continued, the executive committee is meeting tomorrow to discuss our 5-year strategic plan. I want you to present your vision for our data architecture. My vision? You've transformed our systems in 2 months. The committee needs to see what you've built and where you want to take it. Your work deserves recognition. As he left, I turned to the window, gazing at the Sacramento skyline. In the distance, I could see Northrise's campus. The logo still glowed, but inside, everything had changed. The company would survive, but it would never be the same. Neither would I. 3 months later, I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Donovan and Mills' new tech center. My name was on the plaque. Vida Lewis Technology Center, where innovation meets experience. Philip insisted on the name after our system overhaul boosted distribution efficiency by 38%. The center would house an expanded dev team and train technical staff company-wide. In his speech, Philip said, we didn't just hire a consultant, we gained a visionary, someone who understands that technology should serve people, not replace them. As we stood for the ceremonial photo, I thought back to when I left Northrise. I hadn't planned revenge, just a new beginning. But my success had become the most satisfying kind of vindication, one that didn't require retaliation. At the reception, I was approached by a woman I didn't recognize. "Miss Lewis, I'm Diane Torres from the Governor's Office of Business Development. I've been hearing remarkable things about your work." We ended up talking for nearly 30 minutes about data systems and their impact on. At the reception, Diane Torres from the Governor's Office of Business Development, and I talked for nearly half an hour about technology infrastructure and its role in regional business. At the end, she handed me her card. "We're forming a task force on technology infrastructure for state agencies. We need people with both expertise and perspective. Would you be interested in serving as an advisor?" 6 months ago, I had been deemed obsolete by a man half my age. Now I was being asked to help shape technology policy for the entire state. "I'd be honored," I said, taking her card. As the reception wound down, I got a text from Jerome. "New CEO announced. You'll never guess who." Thomas Green, coming out of retirement to lead Northrise through its recovery. I smiled, slipped my phone back in my purse, and moved on. That chapter of my life was closed. My focus now was on building something new. I looked around at the Vita Lewis Technology Center, a space filled with people who truly valued what I brought to the table. And I realized the best revenge wasn't destruction, it was creation.